Oh, Sid. We're going to get into it, baby. All right. It's a midday edition of the Sportskeeda Wrestling top story of the day. John Cena. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, Cena. Saying on the big dog, formerly the big dog, now a mean dog, a dog filled with hubris, a Cerberus, a three-headed dog of hubris. All right. Roman Reigns. They're going to throw some gasoline on this mega match for SummerSlam in just a few weeks in a stadium in Las Vegas. Yeah, we're talking about that. We got some backstage dirt on the recent WWE NXT releases. Is it creating some bad mojo vibes down in WWE NXT? Also, a recently released WWE superstar is saying like, hey, you know what? This AEW thing, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to hold off a little bit. I'm doing a little Al Pacino. I don't know why, because it felt right. And if you don't, you can just share the link because you, sir, are the one. Share the link because you, sir, are the one who stinks. Watch out. What's up, everybody? That is SP3. You can check them out on True Heel Heat, of course, here all the time on Sportskeeda Wrestling. Sid, how you doing here today? We got some bad mojo vibes going into SummerSlam next week with these recent releases. Everyone's down. Everyone's down like a clown. But we have a ton of special SummerSlam content coming to our channels. We got people live on the ground, boots on the ground, all sweaty in the heat, losing money. So we'll have a whole bunch of stuff like that. And the WWE Champion's going to be on our channel this week. Any day now, we're dropping that interview. That may be up now as I speak, too, by the way.
Yes.
So Bobby Lashley's going to be with this. So we're going to put our Hurt Lock on you, and he has a lot to say, including potentially expanding the membership of the Hurt Business. We pressed him on this. So I'm told that is a highlight of this conversation. Sid, let's get right into the news. Backstage details coming out from WrestleVotes, who is always the scooper, tweeting out what is going on here, saying the build for John Cena has been lackluster, and that they're going to throw some gas on it this week, in the coming weeks leading up to SummerSlam, which makes complete sense. You have John Cena, the biggest movie star in the world, Roman Reigns, the hottest heel. They also allude that this sort of sells itself, which is kind of true, but it has lost a little bit of steam. I'm not saying I'm completely uninvested, but there's a lot of other things going on in SmackDown. I was like, well, kudos to WWE saying we got to, build up the rest of the card. Cena Reigns, to a degree, sells itself, but now it's big money time. Now let's sell to the back of the room because we already sold the front row, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of self-awareness from WWE, which we don't always see all the time. But yeah, I would say that they have been relying on the big names of Roman Reigns and John Cena. They're two best push superstars of the last 15 years coming together, having a big money matchup at SummerSlam. They pretty much have that stadium in Las Vegas, Alliance Stadium, pretty much sold out, but they have to get some juice behind this match. I've seen tweets on social media of people saying that the build to Goldberg versus Lashley has been better than Cena and Reigns. I don't agree with that type of thinking,
that's a residency problem. You've seen a little bit more of that build in the last few weeks. You've had more of Cena comes out, cuts a promo, Reigns avoids him, and they really haven't been in the ring together, cutting a promo on each other this entire time. And it's really just been kind of ships in the night, very, very big ships with Reigns and Cena on SmackDown. And also in SmackDown, they've had Finn Balor kind of play a guy who's going to kind of foil and challenge this whole thing, and they flipped that on its head. They had one time where these guys got in there, where Cena got in, he was able to sign the contract. I thought that was a hot angle. I mean, there were some logistics with it, but I thought that was a hot angle. The last 2 weeks, it's kind of cooled off. It's been more about Goldberg and Lashley, the other big match. But it is that balance. It's this huge show with a lot of big names and multiple TV shows on it. So, I mean, I don't think you're ever going to be able to do these perfectly. I don't think there's ever been a
I
perfect
think
build to
I
WrestleMania.
think there's a way to do it, and I feel like the insertion of Finn Balor, although it is some foresight by WWE of trying to build up Finn Balor for after SummerSlam,
Yeah,
it has
thinking past Vegas. Yeah,
but it has diluted what we're getting with these two big names together, because there's people speculating, oh, is Finn Balor going to get added to this matchup and make it a triple threat? And I think that's the last thing WWE needs to do. There's not always you can get two big names like John Cena and Roman Reigns on a big event like SummerSlam, and it needs to be about these two guys and the conflict that they have. We got it for the first couple of weeks when Cena came back after Money in the Bank with the promos that they've been having, and I pretty much thought that they were gonna like save the big face to face until then. But making the decision was very baffling in my opinion. Having the decision to have John Cena at the show last week for SmackDown and not have him on television, I feel like that really hurt the build-up. And you could see from me, Dutch, and Rick, when we reviewed the show afterwards, we all felt the show was boring. And a lot of that comes down to not having your number one contender for the Universal Championship on the show. Yes, it builds up Finn Balor. It makes a whole conflict between Balor and Roman. But like we were saying, that's for after SummerSlam. They need to focus on that event. And although, the build has been good for Edge and Rollins, and Sasha and Bianca have been building their stuff up, we need the main event to be heated, and we need to know the conflict between these two megastars. So I'm happy that they have that self-awareness and know they're going to put a little bit more focus on it with 2 SmackDowns left before SummerSlam.
Yeah, I didn't understand why Cena wasn't on the show last week. It didn't get past me. That was a big, like, I wouldn't say a hiccup. I was like, keep pointing at it. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, you got him. He's here. He's selling tickets for you. They've had a great bump in live shows. A lot of people buying tickets to go see John Cena now. Kudos to John Cena. This guy's the biggest movie star in the world at the moment. He's in the biggest movie, 2 of them that people are talking about this year. And he's going to have a TV show coming out. And how long are you going to have him? And is he going to do something at WrestleMania? Make it count. I mean, if you're only going to have him for a little while, make it count. I'll say I think his intentions are great. I think the work that he's been doing is really, really cool. If you're not going to have him be physical, he's been trying to be as on point and push the needle as he can in his promos. And I think now is the time. It didn't kill the feud for me. I wouldn't say it was a feud killer by any means, because there was a whole lot of other things that WWE's doing. But I don't mind the foresight, though, with Balor, because Cena's not going to be there long after SummerSlam. There are some dates with him after SummerSlam. What they do with those, not exactly clear. I think that's when you do a TV match. I think that's when you have John Cena wrestle on television, which is, in 2021, I think a very big attraction. In a way that it wasn't a few years ago. And then you wait to do it on this pay-per-view, and then you do a match later on after that on TV in some form or another. So Balor has to be in the mix, I think, to do this. Reese Hines sends in a crazy prediction: Finn Balor turns heel on John Cena. I don't see how that works. You need some hot, cool baby faces to get mad at the evil man at the King of the Mountain, because we're just thinking that Reigns wins this thing. Then if you're saying that, you just tell me Roman Reigns, a big dog, is just a foregone conclusion here in Las Vegas, holding that strap at the end of the night.
Or he's saying that he thinks John Cena is going to win at SummerSlam, which would make sense with Ric Flair, departing WWE. They might want to say, forget your 16-time championship reign, your record. We're going to make a new record by putting the belt on Cena. And I just feel like they missed out on
if John Cena breaks that record, Ric Flair's world title win record, Ric Flair's there. I don't care, contract or not, Ric Flair's there.
He ain't there. He ain't going to be there at SummerSlam. So
I don't know, but I'm saying if and when you do that, Ric Flair needs to be there. like that's a given.
Well, we didn't talk about this before we started airing, but that is a nice segue to talk about what was also in Wrestling Observer newsletter, is that it seems that it's locked in that Ric Flair is going to sign with AEW. What that is going to be a part, maybe it's just, a couple of appearance or, a reunion for the 4 Horsemen. But if he's locked in to sign with AEW, then WWE is going to miss out on a huge opportunity if they are choosing to have John Cena pass his 16-time record.
They are, and Flair's the guy who wants to still be active in the business, even if he can't have, go for broke matches. I don't blame him. He's still really, really passionate. At the same time, he's not a guy who wants to be a producer, you know. So what are you gonna have him do? I think if he goes to AEW, they're gonna want him to produce. They're gonna want him to help people cut promos and stuff like that. I mean, you have him there.
Sure.
He's not just gonna be there to sell T-shirts and stuff like that. You're gonna want something else from him. And I don't. But Flair has never shown an interest. I think obviously he doesn't mind helping people, right? But I don't think he's shown any interest from anything that I'd see that would say like, hey, you know what? I want to be a producer. I want to train these people. No, I'm not saying he doesn't care about the future of the business. It just doesn't seem like something that Ric Flair wants to do.
He's a TV personality.
Yes.
He's a TV character. And although, you've made certain decisions over the last couple of weeks, like putting Chavo Guerrero with Andrade, that's an opening right there. You could say, Andrade loses at All Out, the match that Chavo just made this week. He loses to Pac, and he loses out on his opportunity to get the love of the Lucha Bros. And then Ric Flair kind of squirms himself in and replaces Chavo Guerrero. Ric Flair in Andrade's corner, I think that's been the run knock on Andrade in AEW, is that promo-wise, he just isn't there. And you put one of the greatest promo guys of all time, who's also his father-in-law, in his corner, that's a role for him right there. He can align himself with the Pinnacle, with his old buddy Tully Blanchard, and imagine Ric Flair and MJF doing promos together. Oh my God, that's just music to my wrestling mark ears right there. But there's a lot of different things they can do with Ric Flair, but I definitely agree with you that he's a TV personality, a TV character, because we've seen, even in his rare appearances for WWE, Legends Night this year, or any of the stuff that he did with Randy Orton last year.
He does something eventful. He doesn't want to come out and do. He doesn't want to come out and just say woo, or he wants to be a part of a story in advance thing. So yeah, and I admire that.
And when he's there, he's a boost to ratings. That's the biggest thing. Like him and Hulk Hogan, it doesn't matter that they've been out of their prime for well over almost 2 decades now.
Names matter, man. Names have residency. Names matter. These are people that people care about and will always care about. So I agree with it. I agree if you're gonna have John Cena break the record, Ric Flair has to be there. If I'm AEW, I'm like, Rick, go take a picture with John Cena.
No, no, they ain't gonna do the same thing.
It's because you're bitter, because you're mean, and you don't want the fans to be happy. No, Sid, that's what it is. You just want that because you work with Vince, Kev. Because I work with Vince.
You work with Vince.
Who is this Vince that I work with now?
You work for Vince.
I don't. What are you? Seriously? What is? I put the mic down. What are you talking about?
You work for Vince. You have a Vince name tag hiding behind your microphone. I know these things.
You want to see the other side of my mic? Yeah. I had to turn my mic off because of that. Want to see the other side of my mic? Yeah. I work with Vince. You're just trying to piss me off. Huh?
Rile you up.
I had Rick Ucchino on yesterday's edition of Inside Cradle. Go check it out. Deep dive in all the different topics, over an hour. We're a little bit shorter here on the top story of the day, but don't worry. Bite-sized, then we give you the steak with Inside Cradle. He kept teasing that I was an apologist. I'm not an apologist. I'm just logistical, guys. I just don't come in with a bias. That's it. Am I an ass because I don't come in with a bias? All right.
It literally took you the Daniel Bryan rumor to finally admit that WWE and New Japan ain't working together.
Well, you son of a... They talked about it. It was discussed. I didn't say they were working together. I said it was discussed.
You still said it was ongoing after it was already dead.
There was discussions with it into the spring. You are just being a total sleaze about this. You're just being a total sleaze about this. I regret asking you. Stop it with your true heel heat. It's a little 15-year-old in here. It's real. You triggered. You got triggered.
Lovely.
I regret this. Sid. I like you. I don't like the things you do.
That's what I'm here for.
Let's get into our other story of the day here. The backstage rumblings. WWE. A lot of people upset with the recent releases in WWE NXT. A lot of fans were upset about them. Big changes, I think, needed for NXT to kick up some heat. I don't mind that. Objectively, I could see that. But Triple H and Shawn Michaels are the head honchos at that brand, working with talent. And apparently all these cuts came in, made kind of in and around them, and then they have to deal with the results of it. I enjoyed this week's NXT, by the way. I thought it was interesting. Some head scratchy things about it, but also, hey, I was like, Walter's on the show, Ilya Dragunov's on the show. Cool match to end. Odd way to end the show, with Dragunov being pinned if he's going to be, challenging for the title. But the match was so good, I was kind of like, I'm all right, 50-50, right? So I'm into what they're doing with TakeOver, but I'm not into all these cuts happening. I'm really, really not into all these cuts happening. And apparently Triple H and Shawn Michaels, we're not into all these cuts happening either.
Yeah, apparently there's some conflict that's going on between the two sides. In the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, it was noted that basically there's a larger power struggle in WWE, as there is a general understanding that if something happens to McMahon, Triple H will be running the wrestling side while Nick Khan runs the business side. The struggle involves those who are concerned for their jobs should Triple H take over and want to undermine him, and those who are loyal to and support
undermine
Triple
Khan,
H.
is that what you're saying?
No, undermine Triple H.
Okay.
They want to undermine Triple H because they fear that their jobs are going to be basically
I
gone.
think that's a worthy conversation to ask.
It is because Triple H has his own team. It's more of like the Click members, Road Dogg, Shawn Michaels, those guys. And it also notes that the fact that he is expected, Triple H is expected to take over, made the cuts happening without his input was considered a surprise to many behind the scenes. Not only was Triple H left out of the decision-making process, it was noted that he wasn't even aware the cuts were happening until after John Laurinaitis began to call the talent. Triple H has been considered untouchable in the past, but after NXT fared poorly going head-to-head with AEW, it gave his political enemies in the company ammunition against him. And the idea is that his vision for the product hasn't brought in younger viewers. NXT is currently the oldest viewing major wrestling show in all of mainstream wrestling, so it was considered a given when it aired that it would dominate Wednesdays, but that didn't happen. So now the people that are against Triple H are using that to kind of go against him.
But is it so bad to have a show that isn't just 18 to 34? I mean, so focused? I mean, when you have 3 TV shows, is that the worst thing in the world?
Well, when you think about a show that's considered like the third brand, or for the younger wrestling fans and the hardcore wrestling fans, you wanted to draw that 18 to 49 demo. So the fact that NXT doesn't, and it's like the developmental is supposed to be the youngest of the stars in NXT, considering against like Raw and SmackDown, then you expect it to do a little bit better than that. So I think that's where the issue is.
Another thing, this is a ratings thing too, and this is from me talking to people in media. 18 to 34 seems like a tighter demo than it actually is. It's a lot. That's a very big, wide cross section of people. If you start talking 18 to 24, completely different dynamics that people are competing with. 25 to 49, way different dynamics. Because then you're talking about a show that it draws completely better than other ones in terms of like what you're going for and who you have and what the advertising is with it. NXT had a stronger number this week. All right, it had a stronger number. Everyone talks about the overnight ratings. By the time that show airs on Tuesday, by the time we're talking about the show on Thursday, 1.5 million to 2 million people have seen that show. All right, so when you put that in perspective, that's with DVR. So think about that with an AEW, sometimes 2 to 3 million people have seen that show 3 days after it airs. Everyone talks about that next day number and thinks that's just it. I think NXT is doing better than people are seeing. That isn't to say it's like blowing the doors off places. I do think there were some changes they need to make, but I mean, it's gotta suck if you're like in that position with those camp of guys building people up, and then everyone comes in and sweeps in and takes some people out. All the people they didn't exactly have anything at TakeOver. So storyline wise, it doesn't like throw the ship off for what you have coming up at SummerSlam. This isn't as erratic as the cut they made on SmackDown or Raw. Like these cuts kind of like, all right, anybody who didn't have anything at TakeOver was kind of in play for this recent wave of releases here. There was like 1 or 2 that was kind of like
I mean, Tyler Russ was in the Diamond Mine stable, which they were trying to build up behind their
that was the one I was going to jump to.
Yeah.
But outside of that, no one was locked into anything currently storyline wise on TV for Takeover. So when you watched NXT this week, that was the thing. I was like, oh, this doesn't. These cuts didn't like shake the show, and I thought they would. You like objectively, you thought they would. And Takeover looks like a fun show. It looks like a really, really like stacked show on paper. That 3 stages of hell with Cole. You're getting Karrion Kross and Samoa Joe. I mean, like it's still like NXT is still a very, very fun show to watch. That's the
I wouldn't call it fun, honestly. It's sometimes.
You don't think it's fun?
I feel like NXT is very boring. And it used to be my favorite WWE show weekly, but SmackDown has kind of replaced them. And Raw, for all the bad stuff about Raw, at least it's noteworthy most of the time. And at least for how bad it can be, at least there's something to talk about after the show. I do a podcast every week on True Hill Heat, and it's really a struggle to find out what noteworthy things happen on NXT. NXT has good to great wrestling most of the time in ring, but story-wise, promos-wise, angles-wise, I think it's very lacking in that department.
Well, I was laughing my ass off at this Indy Hartwell, Dexter Lumis.
Oh, that was good. That was good.
And that was hilarious.
Especially it was an upgrade from last week with Io Shirai and Zoe Stark, which was one of the worst skits they've ever done in NXT history. So this was an upgrade. I will give them that.
Oh, the heat they took for that. I agree. But I mean, it's week to week. It's like, some weeks it's hot, and Dynamite has the same thing. There's Dynamites I've watched where I'm like, come on, guys, we're gonna put 15 people in the ring at the end of the show again. Like when they do that, I was like, this is redundant. like. So when they do the redundant things, do SmackDown Raw all the time, it drives me crazy. But this was a shakeup. I think Gargano and LeRae, and this is something Candice can do. Congratulations to them. They have a baby on the way. Yes. This is something she can continue to do, like little bits like this. You can pop in and you can film it all, and she doesn't have to go in the ring and take any bumps or do anything like that. I was like, that's a very clever way for you to stay on television while having a kid. And who in WWE is staying on television while being pregnant? Like, there's never been done.
No, Maria Kanellis.
Maria Kanellis was. You're right. But I mean, it was very rare. In this day and age, it seems very rare, especially when you have so many of the female performers are in-ring competitors, and that's their focus, right? So there's so much of that there. It is a bummer, VOD. I don't think this is the death of NXT, because people said that when it was a reality show and it was going to get flipped over to the FCW thing, like that was bad. I think rushing the idea that something is dead is such a short-term reaction and observation to anything in entertainment, especially a company as big as WWE. That's just my take.
I think it's more of the NXT that people, loved from 2014 to 2018.
Sure.
That's how they feel.
Guys they're not on NXT anymore. They're either on Raw or SmackDown, or they're out of the company. They've gone on and done different things. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens.
I just feel like this is more of a realization to whoever was left that still hold on to that like golden era of NXT. Because in my opinion, that NXT's been dead since they went against AEW on Wednesday nights. It
evolved into something else.
It became more like a main roster brand, in my opinion. And they kind of broke the whole formula for NXT. The whole formula from NXT was signing the best talent from the independents, best talents from TNA, best talents from ROH, best talents from New Japan, and you got to see them underneath the WWE umbrella, and they had the story of getting up to the big title win, whether that be the NXT Championship, the North American title, the tag team titles, the women's title, and then when they lost that title, they moved on. They went to the main roster. They broke that trajectory a long time ago with like DIY with Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa and Adam Cole, because those guys lost their big titles and then they still stayed on the brand. So it became more of a main roster brand. So that NXT has been done, but I feel like every time there's a great takeover, there's a certain section of fans like it's coming back. It's going to be like the old days. And
just let the show be what it is now. I think
let it evolve.
You have that idea that it can't be not that. Is unreasonable, and it's almost a victim of your own success, right? You love a band, and then they go and put out another album that isn't the album you love, and you're like, "What is this? Metallica cut their hair." Remember that in the 90s? I'm a Metallica fan. Metallica cut their hair. They sold out. Why can't they just make Black Album 2 again? I was like, because you can't make Black Album to it yet. Like you can't there's some things you can't creatively redo or recreate. So I get that, and objectively I get, oh, you got to do some changes. Yeah, the going head to head with AEW didn't work out. NXT can still be a great show and still be a really, really fun show, but it definitely feels like, all right, we have to figure this thing out and do some different things, which I'm okay with because that's the longevity of it. But then you're trying to keep it going and do some different things with it. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow for week-to-week fans because they're like, we want it to be WrestleMania every single Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. We want next week we want it to be WrestleMania every. And that's not reasonable. Like that isn't a reasonable achievement. And that way, every Dynamite can't be all out, right? I can't be that. That's not reasonable. And that's something I think fans are you always have to be like, no, guys. Like, not everything is the playoffs and the championships. Some of them are games where your team's getting blown out and you got to figure it out, right? So there we go here. Here we go. Raju from our very own desk here at Sportskeeda chiming in with Metallica news. They sold out before the Black Album and Injustice for All. Raju, brush off with your nose up in the air at Metallica, kings of rock, the mountain of metal that is built upon them. Metal bands exist. They are a shark, and all the other bands just float. And you ever seen that shark footage where there's those little fish that live off the side of a shark? That Metallica is the shark, okay? Metallica is the shark. That's what I say. I'm having a great time. Sid, what do you got going on with True Heel Heat, bud?
We got True Heel Heat 138 tomorrow going live at 12 p.m. Eastern time.
I love you can number them like UFCs.
Oh, absolutely. Got to do it like the UFC numbers. But yes, True Heel Heat 138 at 12 p.m. tomorrow, Saturday. It's going to be our live fantasy wrestling draft, as me and Top Guy JJ of True Heel Heat meets Joe Hobart and Jeremy Lambert of the Distraction Podcast head to head, where Chrissy Love, our on-screen host, as well as you guys in the chat, will decide who has the better roster between us and the Distraction. And of course, you can see me on later right here today on the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel with Dutch Mantel and Rick Ucchino with Smack Talk at a special time, 11:05 Eastern time, because we're going to be reviewing SmackDown and AEW Rampage's debut.
Before we get off here, what do you think of that Rampage? It's a real dice roll, I think, by AEW to do their second show on Friday night after SmackDown. Not saying it's a tough sell, but it's another 3-hour night of wrestling for wrestling fans on a Friday. A little bit more of a challenge there. What do you think of that before we sign off here?
It's interesting, and it didn't really translate well when they had Dynamite on Friday nights, but I really feel like the first 2 weeks they've done as great of a job as possible to kind of stack it up. Tonight you got Christian versus Kenny Omega for the Impact World title as the first match on the show, so that's a great way to, you got a name that you would recognize from WWE, so if you're watching SmackDown and you're flipping through the channels afterwards, you're going to stop because you see Christian in a wrestling ring. For people that don't watch AEW for the first time since Royal Rumble, or if you didn't watch Royal Rumble for the first time in 7 years, and he's versus the top star outside of WWE and Kenny Omega. So that's a great way to get people to turn the channel there. And Britt Baker in her hometown of Pittsburgh in the main event against Red Velvet for the AEW World Championship. That's a great thing to do, to have women be the main event, and Britt's going to be the biggest star on that show. I think it's very smart booking. So they really stacked up this week. And then next week, CM Punk, your boy from Chicago, in the United States, in the United Center.
I'm going to be in the Madhouse in Madison, as we call it. It will be a madhouse. It will be what a great weekend too. Just everyone's like AEW versus WWE. Guys, step away. You got Rampage sold out in an arena Friday night. SmackDown's gonna have some hot angle on Friday to like really dunk the ball on SummerSlam. I think we don't get that tonight. I think we get more Cena Reigns tonight than we do.
I think they're gonna set up Cena versus Finn Balor for the go home show.
That'd be great. That would
be smart.
If they do Cena versus Reigns on TV the night before SummerSlam,
Cena versus Balor, yeah.
I love it. I'm on board. That's something where I'm gonna be at Rampage. I'm gonna be like, what's going on? Like, that's a fun dude. That's fun. Here's the thing. This AEW, WWE thing, back away, guys. You don't have to pick a side. Billionaires have to win your time. And if I'm at Rampage, want to know what's going on at SmackDown, guess who wins? Me. That's right, Tony and Vince. You may have money, but you still fight for my time. I'm the viewer. That's my new character, the viewer. You guys can check out all the ridiculous things that I do, especially after I have some caffeine in my blood here on Sportskeeda Wrestling. If you haven't done it already, turn your notifications on. I know we had a little bit of an issue with Facebook. They made some updates, so I know a lot of people watch us there. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are making the march to 20,000. That is our goal during this quarter. We are within shooting distance of that. If you haven't done it, go subscribe and check out our big interview with Bobby Lashley. That's right. The big man, the WWE champion. All right. He is on the channel. That is dropping soon. Thank you guys so much. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Get your shots. Wear your mask. You don't want to take a jab? Get your tests. Go get them. They're free. All right. You go get a test when you're buying your Reese's Pieces. All right. You can do that now. Let's pick this big nasty coronavirus giant up and slam that sumbitch down, because we're trying to do this one thing when we watch wrestling and tell them what that is. Sid,
enjoy wrestling.
Bam.